Kathleen Wynne, Tim Hudak, and Mike Schreiner have all been here during this 41st Ontario election campaign. And tonight we welcome the NDP leader. Here's Andrea Horwath, who's running for the New Democrats in Hamilton Centre. And we welcome you back to TVO.
Thank you, Steve.
Nice to have you here.
My pleasure.
This is your second election as leader of the Ontario NDP. And I just want to start with something perhaps a little broader and more introspective. How are you a different leader today than you were nearly 3 years ago when you ran last time?
Well, I think I'm a little bit more experienced, obviously. I've had more ground under my feet through question period, more experience with the media, folks like you. And so there are perhaps fewer surprises than there were last time in terms of a campaign. But also I think that I've had the chance over these last 3 years to become more solid in my role, if you will, more kind of confident in the work that I do. And I've spent more time around Ontario, talking to Ontarians and getting a sense of where they're at.
People know you more?
I think so. I think people know me more. I mean, the campaigns always help because there's that extra focus, but certainly my recognition, if you want to call it that, when I'm traveling outside of Hamilton is a lot better.
Where you're pretty well known, yes.
Where I'm pretty well known.
If all that's true, how come the numbers aren't better?
Well, you know what? The biggest numbers and the most important numbers are the one that come on.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
On election day.
Such a cliche.
But again, I mean, it is a matter of waiting to see what the people decide. And I think that people have a very important decision to make on June 12th. There's, I think, some interesting opportunities to change the way that this province operates and to bring, you know, a different leadership to the table.
Let me ask you about a decision that it seemed to me that you made about halfway through this election campaign, where at one point you apparently started to describe the Liberal Party as corrupt. You said the Liberal Party is corrupt and Kathleen Wynne is at the center of it. Mm-hmm. That was different. You didn't start the campaign saying that, but halfway through that emerged. How come? Well,
you know, it's actually something that we were quite prepared to talk about from day one. But the first part of our campaign was getting ourselves out there, launching our platform, getting our ideas on the table so that we could move on to the next phase of the campaign. But throughout question period over the last number of months before the election took place, we were pretty critical of the government's behavior in the gas plants.
But you never said corrupt.
Well, we used a lot of that language during question period. We did talk about the Liberals' record. We talked about the decisions they've made. We did a lot of that.
Corruption is, I mean, people jokingly say it's the C word in politics because you know, it crosses some people's lines. So at some point you made a decision to cross a line and say your party is corrupt and you're at the center of it, Ms. Wynne.
Yeah, yeah.
Why did you make that decision?
Well, because frankly, that's what I believe, and that's what the people of Ontario are fed up with. That's why we're in this election campaign. I mean, you don't use public money for your own political, partisan reasons, and then cover up the amount of money, or attempt to cover up the amount of money that you spent. That's actually shouldn't be happening in Ontario, shouldn't be happening in Canada, and people are fed up with it. And that is one example of a Liberal Party that's focused a lot on their own interests, but not so much on the interests of Ontarians. And so it's one of those call it like it is things. And I think that that people actually see this election as a referendum on corruption.
If that's true, and I know there's 6 days to go, why are the Liberals still in first place?
Well, you know, we don't know who's in first place until we cross the finish line, Steve, and the finish line isn't here yet.
That's fair enough, but they're in first place so far.
Well, again, I guess it depends on what polls you're looking at, and I wait to the most important one. We're back to that again, okay. Which is June 12th.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. Let's talk about the platform a bit. This is, you call it Andrea Horwath's plan that makes sense. We'll give a couple of the highlights here, and then I'll ask you a question coming out of it. Sure. So control room, if you would. The NDP plan calls for saving $600 million by creating a Minister of Savings and Accountability. They would hire a financial accountability officer for the legislature. They would increase the corporate tax 1 point from 11.5% to 12.5%, reduce the small business tax from 4.5% to 3% over the next few years, create a job creation tax credit worth 10% of an employee's salary up to $5,000 in an effort to spur on job creation. They'd take the HST off your electricity bills, reduce auto insurance rates by 15%, freeze post-secondary tuition and make provincial student loans interest-free, implement a 5-day home care guarantee for seniors, and expand dental benefits for children from low-income families. That is some of what is in the plan that makes sense. And I guess my question is, what's the overarching message that you think emerges from this plan?
The overarching message is that our plan is one that has listened to Ontarians in terms of their priorities, has put together a platform that talks about the things that they have told us that they want to see change and it's really respecting the tax dollar and investing that tax dollar in people's priorities.
Let me follow up with this because, and again, we're going to put a graphic up on this, a lot of people have criticized the fact that they say this plan bases its existence on basically the Liberal budget as its foundation. And they point to, for example, both plans promising about $29 billion for transportation improvements over the next 10 years. Both yours and the Liberal plans plan to cap public sector CEO salaries. You both promised to reduce auto insurance rates by 15%. You're both promising to set up the Financial Accountability Office to oversee government spending. And you both promised to balance the budget by 2017-18. You know Adrian Morrow from the Globe and Mail, who had a tweet out the other day saying, in all, Andrea Horwath's platform, we are the Liberals with less ambition, more populism, and no gas plant scandal. What makes what you're offering fundamentally different from what the Liberals are offering?
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple of things, and it's interesting that a number of the highlights that you just mentioned were actually NDP ideas that ended up in a Liberal budget. But a budget and a platform are two different things. We don't have the, the legions of people that a government has to build from the ground up a budget. So we put a platform together. That's what election campaigns are for. And so some of the premises and some of the underpinnings that exist in a budget document, we utilize to build our platform. Having said that, the specific Financial Accountability Office was supposed to be done already. It was supposed to be done by Christmas. We didn't see it happen. Auto insurance rates were supposed to be done in a year. That didn't happen either. And so I think the biggest difference is that we actually intend to achieve things for people and get the results that people expect. They've seen a Liberal government that makes all kinds of promises, frankly, but doesn't keep them. And that's not good enough. People deserve better than that. I
want to talk now about some of the most interesting changes that I think you've made to the party. And the first I would like to ask you about is the move to cut the small business tax rate from 4.5% to 3% by 2016. Sure. I think it's fair to say people don't traditionally think of the New Democratic Party as the quote-unquote friend of the small business person. You're trying to make that connection. Why do you think it's there to be had?
Well, I mean, we actually have candidates that are small business people that are on our roster this time around, and we have in the past as well. I think that mom and pop, Main Street, small business is the backbone of a lot of communities, but also we know that lots of employers are small business people, that a great deal of jobs in Ontario come from small business. And so we wanted to responsibly increase the minimum wage while at the same time providing that cushion for small business. Because when I talk to small business, whether it was on Yonge Street to downtown Toronto or other parts of Ontario, that was their biggest concern. They believe that minimum wages should help people to be able to afford everyday life. But as the person paying the wage, they're concerned that if it goes up too quickly, too high, they're not going to be able to keep people employed. They'll go back to only having literally mom and pop in the shop and not neighbor down the street's daughter. And so that's why we made the decision to go higher than what the Liberals have promised on minimum wage, still tie it to CPI, but also make sure that we're giving a break to those small businesses that hire most people who are earning a minimum wage.
For example, though, Jerry Kaplan, one of the longtime stalwarts of your party, has said, small business already has its party. They're called Tories. They're not going to vote for you. What makes you think by appealing to them with this tax break, they're going to do something they haven't done so far in 150 years, which is vote NDP? Well,
if I have some small business people that are candidates of mine, then I would say that there are small business people that are prepared to vote NDP. But you know what? This is something that New Democrat governments have done in other jurisdictions as well. It's called a balanced approach, and certainly that's something that Gary Dewar took when he was the Premier of Manitoba. And there's nothing that is foreign in terms of making sure that we're looking after jobs and we're looking after parts of the economy that are important, while at the same time trying to look after the lowest income earners.
Okay, but again, the stalwarts in the party, and I'm getting to the letter, trust me, but the stalwarts in the party say you call it a balanced approach, but in terms of NDP party history, it's out of balance because in their view, it too much focuses on appealing to small business, and they say you've lost your mojo when it comes to fighting poverty, affordable housing, homelessness, which are not in this platform.
On the contrary, actually, there is a homelessness funding in the plan. There is
what page?
Well, no, there is homelessness funding in the plan. It's $294 million, and it goes back to that list that you talked about in terms of the rest of the base that we built our platform from. So that money's built in, just like the $29 million in capital is built in.
Okay, I'm determined to find it now.
So I can get you another list, if you will. These are the broad pieces of the platform. That's not the itemized list of every single line item. But having said that, look, I am proud of walking in the footsteps of the founder of my party, frankly. I mean, when you look at Tommy Douglas, he's somebody who believed in balanced budgets. He believed in making sure that we were using our tax dollars to actually pay for services for people. He didn't want to have big debt because he didn't want to be paying interest to the banks. You know, otherwise the banks end up calling the shots. And so in fact, Tommy didn't bring Medicare into his province until his treasurer assured him that they had a balanced budget that would be able to absorb the cost of beginning to roll out the Medicare. And that's the approach that we're taking, and that's the approach, frankly, that others have taken as well. I've talked about Gary Dewar, talk about people like Roy Romano. These are New Democrats, solid New Democrats, that believe you can actually get where we need to go by balancing a budget and being responsible.
Bill Clinton called himself a New Democrat because he tried to take what was the party of George McGovern, in his view too far out of the left, and move it more into the mainstream. Is he an example of what you're trying to do?
You know, what I'm trying to do is be thoughtful and balanced and reasonable and offer a choice for the people of this province. Everywhere I go, people tell me they want change, that they are tired of, and I'll use the C word again, they're tired of a corrupt Liberal Party that's wasted their money for far too long. I don't believe that their only choice is Mr. Hudak and his bad math. In fact, I believe they can make another choice this election. They can choose the plan that makes sense, and with an understanding that New Democrats get it in terms of the economy, also in terms of their priorities. I mean, everywhere I go, whether it's, you know, Kingston or Kenora, Wawa, Windsor, I mean, I've been all over this province, and people are telling me they can't make ends meet. They're sick and tired of waste and corruption, and they want a party that's prepared to respect them and respect their priorities.
Okay, well, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but you know that letter was out there for a while of those 30-some-odd.
You really liked that letter, didn't you, Steve?
Did I like the letter? Well,
I don't know, you're on it a lot.
I did find it fascinating because these are people who've obviously spent decades in the party who say, quote...
Some, maybe some not.
Some. It seems in your rush to the center you are abandoning those values and constituencies that the party has always championed. If the NDP does not stand with working people, poor people, with women, with immigrants, then what does it stand for? Anyway, we're running out of time. I'm not going to go on and read the whole thing. But are you concerned... Well, their last line was, please reconsider your position. Did you?
Absolutely not. I am talking to women, I'm talking to working class folks, I'm talking to all those people, and they're telling me, Andrea, our lives are unaffordable. We need help. We need to be able to make the bills at the end of the day. And, you know, it's what I believe as well. I mean, nobody, I think, believes that New Democrats shouldn't fight against corruption. Fighting against corruption is not left, it's not right, it's not center. Fighting against corruption is what all of Ontario wants to see done. And you know, I believe that our platform speaks exactly to that single mom who falls off her chair every month because she can't believe how high her hydro bill is. And it talks to that family in Scarborough that can't afford their auto insurance and has to sell their car. I mean, it speaks to all of those people. And that's exactly what New Democrats do. And I'm proud of a platform that exactly does that. Labour has always had, organized Labour, a special relationship with the NDP going back to its founding in the early 1960s. What's the status of that relationship today? Excellent.
No, seriously.
Seriously, I have a great deal of support in the labor movement. I talk to many labor leaders on a regular basis, and I'm very proud of my relationships there.
Sid Ryan of the OFL said you shouldn't have taken down this government over the budget, which he liked. Jerry Diaz of Unifor said the same thing.
Well, everybody's entitled to their opinion, Steve, but there are many people in Ontario who I have to talk to and who I want to talk to and who I've listened to. And as I said a little bit earlier today in another interview, which is the case, my biggest surprise in this campaign is when it started, how many people actually knew that there was an election on, because sometimes it takes a while. And then the other thing was how many people, no matter where I was, right here in downtown Toronto as well as across this province, in the first week or so, that literally walked across the street to shake my hand and say, thank you. Thank you for calling an election. We need an election. We have to make a choice.
What's your party's base today?
You know, it's interesting. Our roots and our base are consistent, but what we've been able to do is grow branches. And I say that because when I started as the leader of the party, our party, frankly, was, was a little bit stayed. You know, it was a little bit not moving anywhere. It had been not growing. It had been a little bit stale. And what I've been able to do with a great team of support is grow the party in magnificent ways. We have far more participation by youth. In fact, literally every campaign I've been to visit during this election process has been full of young people, which is great. We have far more diversity than we've ever had in terms of the ethnocultural diversity, gender diversity. It's really quite fantastic. And so I'm pretty proud of being able to take the strong roots that our party's had and reinvigorate those roots to grow a much more vibrant and vigorous party.
In our last few minutes here, I do want to touch on this moment going forward, because there's only 6 days to go, and it's enough time for interesting things to happen, but we'll see. I don't want to spend a lot of time on hypotheticals. However, it's not a stretch to think that Ontarians are going to return 107 MPPs and it'll be a minority parliament. It's possible. Is there anything at this juncture you're ruling out?
Well, you know, I am running to be the premier of this province. I believe that people have a real choice on June 6th, and I'm going to wait until that last poll closes and that last vote is counted to see what the people decide. And I think the best thing to do with 6 days left, or whether it's with 20 days left, is to give people the respect of waiting for their decision. And I think New Democrats have proven clearly that we respect the decision of voters. That's why we worked really hard over the last couple of years to try to get results for them with the position that they gave us. Having said that, they can be assured that I'm not interested in laying off 100,000 people or firing 100,000 people in this province, nor am I interested in having the OPP come and raid my office. And so these are decisions people will be making on the 6th, and I look forward to working with whatever they give me.
On the 12th.
Oh, the 12th, sorry.
On the 12th, right. I made the same mistake last night. I think I said January last night.
You know why? Because it's E-6 today.
That's it.
It's E-6.
And we're both getting punchy. It's been a long campaign. Could you imagine a set of circumstances where, if Tim Hudak won a minority government, you would support that government?
Well, I mean, I think clearly, as I said, I don't support anything that's going to fire 100,000 people. His ideas don't make any sense to me, and it would be something that I couldn't ever support. Having said that, I don't know what decision the people of this province are going to make. I'm running to be the premier of this province, and we'll see what decision they make on the 12th.
Again, if you came back in a minority parliament, and let's say the Liberals had the most number of seats and were dependent on a second party to survive as a government, could you imagine supporting a party that you have already said is corrupt and that the current premier is at the center of?
Well, exactly. I think that's why people need to think very carefully about the choice that they make on the 12th. People are telling me they don't want to go back to that corruption and that waste. And so I'm urging people, if you don't want bad ethics and you don't want bad math, then vote NDP.
If you, I'm trying to think now, you won 17 seats back in 2011. You improved your seat count to 21 in the interim. If you don't come back with at least 21 seats, what does that say about your leadership?
Well, I thought it'll be the decision of the people that are members of my party. We have a convention in the fall, and I guess that convention's good timing.
Because they will have to render a verdict on you right away?
One way or another.
Do you have a thought about how many seats you're going to win this time?
We never presuppose or make any projections whatsoever. I certainly don't. But I do know that it's an exciting campaign. We're seeing all kinds of momentum in these last couple of days. There's a real sense of excitement in the campaigns, in the various ridings, and overall, we're happy with being in a position to really give the people of this province something to think about in terms of their choice. And again, we're into an election campaign because I really did listen to people, and they really did feel that it was time for some change. And their choice of change, I think, is very obvious. And it's a choice between a plan that makes sense and a plan that's got bad math.
Okay, let me make sure I got it right this time. And we'll know on the 12th.
We'll know on the 12th.
Of June how it all works out. As I say to all the leaders when they come in here, Andrea Horwath, thanks for coming in. Good luck on the campaign trail, and we'll see you after the 12th.
My pleasure, Steve. Thanks.
That's Andrea Horwath, NDP leader running for re-election in Hamilton Centre.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.